Much of research has shown that typically stereotypes impact children's behavior, specifically with implications for academic achievement. For example, Gonzalez, Odick, Schmader, and Barron aim to find if exposure to gender stereotypes about math could impair preschool girls' intuitive number sense, and if there are differences in how girls perform on number sense tasks based on their internalized gender stereotypes about math. Using a participant pool of 434 girls and boys, aged 3 to 6 years, they found that stereotypes typically associate math with boys rather than girls, which could influence performance and interest in math from elementary school through adulthood. They found that girls who identified math as a male oriented activity performed significantly worse on tasks framed as a math test compared to when it was presented as a game. In another study done by Embody, Shi, Kim, and Patinsky, aiming to find out if activating positive or negative stereotypes about gender and ethnicity affect children's performance in quantitative tasks, and at what age do children become susceptible to stereotypes, and how does susceptibility change as they grow older. They used a participant pool of Asian American children, subdivided into three age groups: lower elementary, upper elementary, and middle school. They found that children from lower elementary grades to older children in middle school displayed shifts in performance that aligned with the effects observed in adults. Negative stereotypes impeded performance while positive stereotypes facilitated it. However, children in the upper elementary grades showed markedly different effects, suggesting a developmental variation in how stereotypes affect cognitive outcomes. To create a more racially varied view on research findings by Ambadi and others, a study conducted by Skinner, Kurtzkostas, Wulitek, Copping, and Rowley addresses the evolution of gender stereotypes in academic subjects among black and white adolescents. The aim of the study was to find if there are racial differences in adolescents' beliefs about boys' and girls' abilities in English, math, and science, and how do these beliefs change from middle to late adolescence. The population studied included 654 black and white adolescents, both boys and girls, with an average age of 16.3 years. The findings showed that both black and white adolescents showed strong stereotypes favoring girls in verbal domains like English and traditional stereotypes favoring boys in math. These were predominantly endorsed by white adolescents, not black adolescents. Over time, endorsement of traditional stereotypes increased. Black adolescents generally rated girls more favorably across all subjects compared to white adolescents, who showed traditional gender biases, favoring boys in STEM and girls in English. Stereotypes favoring boys in math become more pronounced from grade 10 to grade 12 among both groups. This suggests an increase in traditional gender stereotypes during late adolescence. In a second experiment, the effects of exposure to gender stereotypes in a television program on stereotype endorsement and math-related outcomes for children was examined. Will Gaspard, Totwin, Oschatz, Shater, and Nangengast studied 335 fifth grade students in Germany to find out if exposure to gender stereotypes in a TV program affect children's endorsement of stereotypes and their performance in mathematics, and if there are differences in the impact of these stereotypes on girls compared to boys. They found that watching a TV segment with embedded gender stereotypes increased stereotype endorsement among both boys and girls. There were no significant effects found on girls' math performance, motivational dispositions, or attitudes due to the stereotype exposure. For boys, it increased feelings of belonging, but lower perceived utility value after watching the stereotype content. This study found no significant effects on other measured outcomes like math concepts, and task values. Math, self concepts, and task values. Even though all the previous mentioned studies highlight the academic effects of gender stereotypes on children from different races, Wong, Shi, and Young take it a step further by examining the coexistence of gender stereotypes in academic performance and career success among children. They used a large participant pool of 1,144 students from grades 1 to 6 from Hong Kong, representing a diverse socioeconomic background. Their aim was to find out if stereotypes about academic female superiority and paradoxical stereotypes about male career superiority coexist in children's beliefs, and how do these stereotypes and their relationships vary with age and between genders. They found that both boys and girls initially believed their own gender was superior in both academic and career domains. However, as they aged, girls were increasingly perceived as academically superior, while boys were seen as more likely to succeed in careers. Older children showed more pronounced gender stereotyping, with clear academic advantages attributed to girls and career advantages to boys. The stereotypes moderately influence gender differences in school engagement, exam scores, and career related motivations, showing that children's perceptions align with broader societal beliefs about gender roles. The mentioned research literature illustrates a fair understanding of the effects of stereotypes, more specifically, gender stereotypes, on academic achievement. However, I find that there are general limitations across the studies that can be addressed through a more integrated study. Most of the studies are culturally specific, which can limit their applicability to other settings where cultural norms and educational systems differ significantly. The studies focus on specific demographic groups, which may not reflect broader population dynamics, and the methodologies used may primarily focus on short term or specific domain impacts, potentially overlooking long term effects or broader societal influences. To address this, I'm interested in asking, how do gender stereotypes regarding STEM evolve through childhood and adolescence? And how do these stereotypes impact engagement and performance in STEM subjects across these developmental stages? This is important because investigating how gender stereotypes take root and evolve during key developmental stages provides critical insights into when and how interventions might be most effective. This research can help in designing age specific educational strategies to foster gender equality in STEM fields from an early age, thereby promoting diverse participation in these crucial areas. It will be a longitudinal cohort study with a sample involving 500 children starting from 1st grade through 10th grade from diverse socioeconomic backgrounds. The procedure will include a longitudinal assessment, surveys and interviews to assess beliefs about gender roles in STEM, interest in STEM subjects, and self-efficacy in STEM will be conducted annually. A subset of the sample, 250 students, will receive targeted interventions starting in 1st grade regarding gender and STEM integration of gender neutral, in 1st grade, including teacher workshops and training on neutral communications regarding gender and STEM, integration of gender neutral STEM activities and materials in classroom, and engagement with STEM role models who defy traditional gender roles through guest lectures and field trips. The remaining 250 students will be the control group and will receive the standard curriculum without additional intervention. A growth curve model will be used to analyze the changes in stereotypes, interest, and self-efficacy over time and between intervention group and control group. The expected finding is that the students in the intervention group will exhibit a slower growth in gender stereotyping and higher interest and self-efficacy in STEM compared to the control group. Differences are expected to be most pronounced around transitional educational stages, 5th grade and 8th grade. The implications are that effective timing and strategies for interventions can be identified, potentially leading to educational policy adjustments that emphasize gender equality from early educational stages. If my hypotheses are true, gender stereotypes in STEM fields increase in strength during transitional periods of education stages, which is from elementary to middle school and from middle school to high school. Increased gender stereotyping negatively correlates with STEM engagement, and self-efficacy, particularly among girls, and early intervention in elementary school reduces the strength of gender stereotypes in later stages and positively influences STEM engagement across genders. This study would expand on the insights from Gonzalez, Odick, Schmader, and Barrett's study, Gender Stereotypes Impair Preschool Girls' Intuitive Number Sets, by tracking the development of these stereotypes over a longer period and directly linking them to educational outcomes. Also, by observing how entrenched stereotypes become over time and their broader impacts on academic identity. By focusing on developmental trajectories, this study will help in understanding the critical points at which gender stereotypes solidify and begin to influence educational choices, thereby providing a foundation for targeted interventions to promote gender equality in STEM fields. Thank you for listening.